The human brain is not a fixed machine but a dynamic, ever-evolving quantum biological system. Neuroscience has demonstrated that neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to reorganize its own structure, enables us to rewire patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior. But what happens when this plasticity interacts with the strange laws of quantum mechanics? At the subatomic level, our reality is not deterministic but probabilistic. Particles exist in superpositions, multiple potential states, until observation collapses them into a single reality. Some physicists and theorists suggest that consciousness itself may play a role in this collapse, meaning that focused intention and awareness could influence matter on a fundamental level. This leads to the provocative idea: if thought has quantum influence, and the brain is plastic, then perhaps focused mental states can act as tools to reshape not just neural architecture, but the trajectory of one's life. Studies on meditation offer a glimpse into this potential. Long-term meditation practitioners show increased gray matter density in areas linked to attention, emotional regulation, and memory. But beyond structural change, their brains exhibit different oscillatory patterns, indicating altered energetic states. These frequency shifts are not random, they may correlate with highly coherent states of brain function, possibly aligning with what quantum theorists describe as resonance or coherence across quantum fields. Some experimental models propose that microtubules within neurons could sustain quantum coherence for brief moments, suggesting that the brain may be partially governed by quantum information processing. If so, then mental focus, intention held with clarity and emotional intensity, might amplify quantum probabilities towards certain neural pathways over others. In this light, belief is not just a psychological construct, but a force that influences probability landscapes. Meditative states of deep coherence, where thought, emotion, and bodily awareness converge, could represent ideal conditions for initiating quantum neuroplastic shifts. During such states, attention becomes a sculptor, tracing new circuits, unbinding from old habits, re-encoding emotional memories with novel meaning. Focus becomes more than concentration, it becomes an interface, a bridge, a tuning fork vibrating with the subtle architecture of the quantum field. This perspective opens radical possibilities. Depression, anxiety, trauma, these may not be permanent fixtures but patterns coded into the nervous system, subject to reconfiguration through quantum alignment and intentional awareness. Repeated meditative practice, especially when infused with elevated emotional states like gratitude or awe, could potentiate a kind of neuroquantum entrainment, where the brain, heart, and field align to manifest new potentials in thought and reality alike. This neuroquantum interaction model also invites a rethinking of memory and identity. Traditional neuroscience regards memories as encoded synaptic patterns, stored and recalled through biochemical signaling. But if the brain participates in quantum processes, then memory may not be entirely localized. Quantum information is non-local by nature, it can exist in entangled states that transcend space and time. Some researchers propose that certain aspects of consciousness and memory may be holographically distributed, encoded not just in the synapses, but within the broader quantum field surrounding the body. Such a hypothesis aligns with emerging research in quantum biology, where coherence and entanglement have been detected in biological systems, including photosynthesis, bird navigation, and even olfaction. The brain, with its intricate electromagnetic and biochemical activity, may function like a quantum antenna, both broadcasting and receiving information beyond the limits of classical perception. In this framework, meditative states may fine-tune the brain's coherence, increasing its sensitivity to subtle quantum fluctuations and enabling the conscious mind to read or influence patterns otherwise hidden beneath the noise of normal cognition. Electroencephalography, EEG, and functional MRI studies have repeatedly shown that meditative and focused attention states produce a shift from high beta, stress-related, brainwaves to more coherent alpha, theta, and gamma patterns. Gamma oscillations, in particular, are associated with unity consciousness, insight, and enhanced neural synchrony. These states are not passive, they involve active regulation of attention and internal energy. Some researchers suggest that these oscillations may be a macroscopic signature of underlying quantum coherence, a kind of large-scale entanglement between cortical networks. From a systems perspective, the brain operates as a nonlinear, adaptive, and self-organizing system, exactly the kind of system most sensitive to small fluctuations. In quantum terms, focused intention could be seen as a perturbation in the field, a nudge that shifts probabilities, leading to phase transitions in neural dynamics. Such transitions could result in novel attractor states, new stable patterns of thought, emotion, and perception that reinforce themselves over time. This would explain how repetitive mental rehearsal, visualization, or intentional emotional engagement can lead not only to psychological but also to physiological transformation. Moreover, this model offers a plausible mechanism for spontaneous healing or sudden insight, the so-called quantum leap moments. If the brain-body system reaches a threshold of coherence and the quantum field is sufficiently engaged, nonlinear shifts could occur, allowing dormant pathways to activate or outdated ones to dissolve almost instantly. This parallels the collapse of the wave function in quantum mechanics, where a system instantly selects one outcome among many potential ones, not gradually, but decisively. If we consider the brain not as an isolated classical organ but as an open quantum system entangled with its environment, then consciousness may play a participatory role in the evolution of reality itself. In such a model, attention functions analogously to a quantum measurement, collapsing the indeterminate potential states of neural activity into a defined configuration, thus reinforcing certain circuits while weakening others. This is not metaphysics but a theoretical extension of both Hebbian plasticity, neurons that fire together wire together, and quantum decoherence. Crucially, neuroplasticity is experience-dependent. The repeated activation of neural circuits leads to myelination, synaptic strengthening, and structural remodeling. But if quantum effects are indeed present at the subneuronal level, perhaps within tubulin proteins in microtubules or via electron tunneling within synapses, then conscious intent could act as a fine-tuned selector, biasing which circuits undergo reinforcement. Meditation, visualization, and emotionally charged mental rehearsal could function as cognitive tuning mechanisms, synchronizing neural firing with specific vibrational frequencies that correspond to desired outcomes. Recent models of quantum cognition, such as those based on Hilbert space formalism, suggest that human decision-making and memory retrieval may be better explained by quantum probability theory than classical logic. These models have demonstrated predictive power in psychological experiments, particularly when subjects make choices that violate classical rationality, e.g., the disjunction effect, order effects, and contextuality. This suggests that the mind may already be operating, at least partially, under quantum-like principles, superposition of thoughts, entanglement of concepts, and collapse under focused awareness. In this light, deliberate attention becomes a quantum operator. It modifies the probability amplitude of future brain states. This introduces an entirely new paradigm for personal transformation, one where neurobiological change is not solely driven by external stimuli, but by volitional engagement with the quantum fabric of reality. The process becomes not just mental but ontological. To observe with intention is to influence existence itself. Furthermore, this model allows us to reinterpret emotional states as electromagnetic signatures that alter the body's internal resonance. Emotions are not merely byproducts of neural activity, they generate measurable fields, particularly via the heart, which is now known to have its own neural network and electromagnetic field over 100 times stronger than that of the brain. Research from the HeartMath Institute and similar labs suggests that positive emotional states, like gratitude, compassion, and awe, can bring the heart and brain into physiological coherence, enhancing cognitive performance and emotional regulation. But beyond biophysiological benefits, these states may also serve as harmonizers of quantum information flow. From the perspective of quantum field theory, QFT, all matter and energy arise from excitations of underlying fields. The brain, then, could be seen as an emergent process arising from the interplay of various field resonances, electromagnetic, biochemical, and possibly quantum informational. A coherent mind-heart-body state may optimize the coupling between these layers, making the individual a more efficient transceiver of quantum information. In such a state, thoughts become more than internal narratives, they become modulations of field dynamics capable of influencing both internal physiology and external events. Additionally, this brings new light to the placebo effect. Traditionally dismissed as psychological, the placebo response may actually be a demonstration of mind-mediated neuroquantum influence. Belief, expectation, and trust in healing could act as informational inputs that bias quantum probabilities toward favorable biological outcomes. In other words, belief structures the field, and the field, in turn, structures biology. This framework, linking neuroplasticity, quantum field dynamics, and conscious intent, suggests that personal transformation is not merely a metaphorical journey but a physically measurable process involving energy, information, and reconfiguration of neural architecture within a quantum-influenced biological substrate. To fully understand this, we must delve deeper into the mechanics of coherence, phase transitions, and entanglement as they may relate to consciousness and brain function. In physics, coherence refers to the correlated behavior of systems, such as waves, in phase with each other. In quantum systems, coherence is a necessary condition for superposition and entanglement to persist. In biological systems, coherence is harder to detect but increasingly supported by evidence from quantum biology. For instance, in photosynthetic complexes of algae, excitons, quasiparticles of energy, are observed to follow multiple paths simultaneously, indicating quantum coherence, before selecting the most efficient route for energy transfer. If similar coherence occurs in the brain, particularly within highly ordered structures like microtubules or in synchronized brainwave networks, then the human mind may occasionally enter transient states where quantum information is not immediately lost to decoherence. These windows of coherence could be key to explaining intuitive leaps, creativity bursts, or the so-called flow states, where perception, decision-making, and bodily action feel effortlessly unified. Meditative states, especially those cultivated over long periods, might extend the duration or depth of these coherence phases. Techniques involving rhythmic breathing, focused attention, and heart rate variability regulation are now known to induce global synchronization across cortical regions, a phenomenon sometimes referred to as global phase locking. This synchronization may provide a structural and energetic foundation for quantum-like processes to influence brain behavior at macroscopic scales. In systems theory and thermodynamics, phase transitions occur when a small change in input leads to a large-scale reorganization of the system, like water turning to ice, or metal becoming magnetized. The brain, being a complex adaptive system operating near criticality, exhibits similar phase transitions. For example, epileptic seizures, moments of insight, or sudden behavioral shifts can be interpreted as emergent phenomena resulting from a small trigger pushing the brain over a threshold. If attention and emotional energy can alter the brain's energetic state, they may serve as catalysts for such neural phase transitions. The application of sustained focus or visualization could then be seen not merely as psychological effort, but as a method for deliberately nudging the brain into a new attractor basin, a new stable pattern of activity in the vast landscape of possible neural configurations. From this perspective, healing from trauma or rewiring negative behavioral loops does not require years of passive therapy alone. Under the right quantum coherent conditions, reinforced by emotion and intention, it may be possible to generate rapid repatterning, akin to a neurobiological phase shift. The concept of entanglement, where two or more particles remain correlated regardless of distance, introduces the possibility that elements of human consciousness are not strictly local. While highly speculative, some physicists and philosophers have entertained models where aspects of thought or awareness are entangled with quantum fields beyond the physical brain. This idea, though controversial, finds echoes in studies of non-local correlations in human behavior, e.g., presentiment studies, remote perception, and anomalous cognition. While mainstream science rightly demands caution, early work by researchers like Dean Radin, Roger Penrose, and Stuart Hameroff hints that microtubules in neurons may support quantum computations or serve as conduits for quantum entanglement. If confirmed, this would support a distributed model of mind, where certain mental states, particularly those reached through meditation, trance, or deep focus, allow temporary access to non-local informational structures. Such a model could explain rare phenomena like simultaneous insight in different individuals, precognition-like experiences, or the rapid internal reorganization that occurs during peak spiritual moments. These are often accompanied by a sense of timelessness, unity, and energetic shift, markers that are difficult to explain in strictly classical neurological terms. To further deepen this integrative model of quantum neuroscience and consciousness transformation, we must now examine the experimental frontiers, explore models of mind-field coupling, and address potential technological and therapeutic applications of this theory. Although direct empirical evidence of sustained quantum coherence in the human brain remains elusive due to measurement limitations, several lines of research point toward biological plausibility. 1. Anesthetic mechanisms in quantum coherence. Studies have shown that certain anesthetics, such as xenon, interact with aromatic amino acid residues within microtubules, disrupting consciousness without significantly altering neuronal firing. This has led Hameroff and colleagues to propose that consciousness arises from orchestrated objective reduction, orchestra, events in quantum coherent states within microtubules. If anesthesia works by collapsing quantum coherence, then conversely, meditative or altered states of awareness might enhance or stabilize it. 2. Heart-brain synchrony and physiological coherence. Research from neurocardiology and institutes like HeartMath shows that heart rate variability, HRV, entrainment, achieved through intentional breathwork and emotional regulation, leads to increased coherence between the cardiac and cerebral rhythms. This measurable coherence may serve as a biomarker for larger-scale field resonance involving both the autonomic nervous system and the brain's electromagnetic field. These coherent states are associated with clarity, insight, and emotional resilience. 3. Gamma brainwaves and conscious integration. High-frequency gamma waves, 30 to 100 Hz, particularly in the 40 Hz range, have been implicated in the binding problem, how separate sensory and cognitive inputs unify into a single conscious experience. Intriguingly, advanced meditators display increased gamma synchrony across cortical regions, suggesting a heightened capacity for information integration. In quantum terms, such synchronization could indicate a temporary lattice of coherence, an ordered field where quantum effects may be amplified. 4. Neurofeedback and brainwave sculpting. Neurofeedback systems have enabled users to intentionally generate specific brainwave patterns through real-time feedback. Some systems now incorporate electromagnetic pulsing tuned to Schumann resonances or other Earth-based frequencies, theorizing that aligning brainwave activity with external fields could facilitate enhanced connectivity, not just within the brain, but with ambient quantum informational substrates. Mind-field coupling, toward a unified model. A growing theoretical framework proposes that consciousness is not produced by the brain, but filtered or modulated by it, similar to how a radio tunes into electromagnetic frequencies rather than generating the music itself. This receiver model, or resonance model, of consciousness is compatible with quantum field theories where consciousness corresponds to a fundamental field, perhaps related to the zero-point field or a panquantum substrate beyond the standard model. In such a model, focused thought acts as a resonant frequency generator. Emotion amplifies the signal. Emotional intensity correlates with field strength. Intention serves as the informational vector, encoding what change is desired. Meditation or entrainment techniques bring the body-brain system into phase coherence, reducing entropy and increasing receptivity to subtle field influences. This system behaves like a phase-locked loop, where internal neural dynamics lock onto a frequency or informational attractor in the quantum field. Over time, this resonance entrains neural firing patterns, gene expression, via epigenetic mechanisms, and even autonomic regulation. In practical terms, the repeated activation of coherent intention may create a standing wave in both the nervous system and the surrounding quantum informational field, sculpting neural architecture in alignment with conscious goals. Applications in therapy, education, and cognitive engineering. If these mechanisms hold even partial validity, the implications for human development, healing, and learning are transformative. 1. Quantum-based trauma therapy. Trauma imprints deep patterns into the limbic system, creating persistent fear loops and physiological rigidity. Techniques that combine emotional processing, e.g. somatic experiencing, EMDR, with quantum coherence promoting practices, e.g. heart-brain synchronization, meditative focus on elevated emotions, may allow for nonlinear restructuring of memory traces, essentially collapsing the old pattern and replacing it with a more adaptive neural and energetic signature. 2. Conscious learning environments. Traditional learning models emphasize repetition and memorization. A quantum consciousness model would prioritize state-dependent learning, entering states of coherence and elevated emotion to encode information more deeply and retrieve it more flexibly. Learning would be optimized not by cramming, but by preparing the learner's field, emotionally, neurologically, and energetically, for resonance with the subject matter. 3. Cognitive field engineering. In advanced scenarios, individuals could learn to modulate their cognitive field via neurofeedback, electromagnetic resonance devices, or group coherence protocols. These tools could entrain brain states into frequencies associated with insight, healing, or flow. Future technologies might include quantum-enhanced neural interfaces that detect subtle shifts in field information and assist the user in maintaining coherent states. 4. Ethical implications and personal sovereignty. If consciousness can indeed influence the quantum field, then ethical implications abound. Intentions, emotions, and thoughts are no longer private shadows but causal agents with potential impact on the shared energetic ecosystem. This reframes disciplines like mindfulness, compassion, and forgiveness not as moral ideals, but as field hygiene technologies that preserve both internal coherence and external informational harmony. To fully explore the scientific depth of this paradigm, where consciousness, neuroplasticity, and quantum field theory converge, we must extend the framework into advanced theoretical physics, non-local cognition, and the integration of ancient contemplative models with modern scientific language. This is where frontier neuroscience meets cosmology and metaphysics, forming a truly unified field of inquiry. Vacuum fluctuations and consciousness as a field phenomenon. In quantum field theory, QFT, the so-called vacuum is not empty. Instead, it teems with fluctuations of energy and transient virtual particles, giving rise to what is known as the zero-point energy field. This omnipresent background field underlies all matter and interactions. Even in total darkness and absolute zero temperature, these fluctuations persist, a quantum foam of potentiality. Some physicists and consciousness theorists propose that the vacuum field may be more than a physical substrate, it may be the informational matrix from which consciousness arises or through which it is expressed. This hypothesis is echoed in the Akashic Field Model, Ervin Laszlo, and the Implicate Order, David Bohm, where all information about the universe is encoded in a non-local, subquantum realm of reality. From this perspective, when the brain enters a state of high coherence, e.g., through meditation, deep focus, or gamma synchrony, it may act like a resonant cavity capable of coupling with the zero-point field. The coherent brain does not generate information in isolation, it extracts, aligns, or downloads information from the vacuum substrate via phase resonance. In this model, creativity, intuition, and profound insights are not invented, but tuned into, like stations on a universal frequency spectrum. This aligns with the findings of quantum vacuum biophysics, which suggest that living systems, particularly DNA and structured water, may interact with vacuum fluctuations via long-range electromagnetic coherence. The human body, especially in altered states of consciousness, could thus become a bridge between the macrocosm and the microcosm, a bioquantum antenna embedded in a living field. Non-local cognition and quantum holography. If memory and thought are partly non-local, spread across field structures and not just neural architecture, then consciousness may function holographically. In a quantum hologram, every part contains information about the whole, and interference patterns encode spatial and temporal data that can be retrieved under the right conditions. This resonates with Karl Pribram's holonomic brain theory, where memory is distributed and accessed through frequency-based mechanisms, not localized storage. A holographic model would explain why memories resurface in nonlinear ways, e.g., during dreams or altered states. How emotionally intense moments can imprint vast networks instantly. Why synchronized brainwave activity enhances learning and recall. How intuitive or precognitive insights may emerge spontaneously. In this model, focused awareness can be seen as a laser beam scanning the holographic field, reconstructing meaningful images or ideas from distributed quantum interference patterns. This process is influenced by attention, emotional tone, and expectation, suggesting that consciousness actively shapes the resolution of its own informational retrieval. Entropic reversal and temporal nonlinearity in conscious intention. From a thermodynamic viewpoint, systems tend toward increased entropy, disorder. However, quantum coherence enables the temporary reversal or suspension of entropic drift. Living systems exhibit negentropy, the ability to maintain order in defiance of decay, largely through energy intake and information processing. But under the lens of consciousness studies, a question arises: can focused intention not only reduce internal entropy, e.g., physiological stress, but also influence temporal unfolding? Experiments in retrocausality, where effects precede causes in quantum systems, suggest that, under certain conditions, future states may influence present outcomes. If consciousness can access non-local information or align with field-based attractors outside of linear time, then intention may function as a vector not only across space, but across time. In this framework, visualizing a future self in a coherent, elevated state is not mere fantasy, it may be entangling the present self with a higher probability trajectory, pulling the system toward that outcome. The integration with ancient wisdom traditions. While modern neuroscience and physics are just beginning to model these ideas, ancient contemplative systems, such as Vedanta, Taoism, and certain branches of mystical Christianity and Kabbalah, have long articulated comparable insights. The chakra system can be viewed as a metaphorical map of energy vortices aligned with hormonal glands and neural clusters, possibly regulating electromagnetic and field-based coherence. Prana, chi, or ruach may correspond to biofield or vacuum field dynamics, subtle energies that are structured by breath, focus, and moral energetic alignment. Samadhi and satori states, often described as experiences of unity beyond time and self, could reflect high-order quantum coherence between neural substrates and non-local informational fields. Modern science is now developing language, quantum entanglement, phase transitions, field resonance, that bridges ancient descriptions of mind-matter unity with rigorous empirical exploration. Conclusion: a new scientific paradigm emerges. This synthesis points toward a radically expanded view of the human being, not as a biochemical machine trapped in a brain, but as a conscious, field-interfaced organism capable of intentionally modifying its neural structure through quantum-influenced plasticity. Accessing distributed non-local information via focused awareness. Resonating with vacuum field substrates that encode universal patterns. Rewiring emotional and behavioral patterns through coherence and elevated emotion. Acting as a participant in the ongoing evolution of reality, not as a passive observer, but as a conscious co-creator. In this view, meditation, intention, visualization, gratitude, and emotional regulation are not soft practices, they are quantum technologies of self-directed evolution. Building upon this integrative framework, we now venture into the speculative frontier, where science, philosophy, and systems theory converge to anticipate future directions in experimental validation, artificial consciousness, cosmogenesis, and the ultimate role of consciousness in the architecture of the universe. Future experimental pathways toward empirical validation. The challenge in scientifically grounding quantum consciousness models lies in measurement. Quantum phenomena are exquisitely sensitive to observation and prone to decoherence in warm, wet environments like the brain. However, several lines of research may soon offer viable testing grounds. 1. Quantum bioimaging and magnetoencephalography (MEG). Next-generation MEG systems, using optically pumped magnetometers or quantum sensors, can detect minute magnetic fields generated by coherent neural oscillations. These may offer the sensitivity required to detect patterns of large-scale neural synchrony that correlate with meditative depth, emotional coherence, or non-local cognition tasks. 2. Entanglement-based behavioral studies. Double-blind experiments are already testing whether synchronized meditation groups, separated by thousands of kilometers, can influence random number generators or EEG signals in distant subjects. While controversial, such studies are becoming more rigorous and could be enhanced by quantum communication protocols to detect microcorrelations beyond classical probability. 3. Quantum coherent artificial systems. Laboratories are exploring the use of artificial microtubules, quantum dots, and Bose-Einstein condensates to simulate biological quantum coherence. These engineered substrates may help model how conscious intent interacts with quantum substrates in systems mimicking human neuronal geometries. 4. Brain vacuum coupling experiments. Experiments involving low-temperature superconducting circuits and scalar field detectors could one day verify whether brain states enter a measurable relationship with vacuum fluctuations. This would require shielding from electromagnetic noise and the use of ultra-sensitive quantum detectors like SQUIDs, superconducting quantum interference devices. Artificial consciousness and quantum cognition. If consciousness is partially a quantum field phenomenon, then reproducing it in machines may not be possible via classical computing alone. However, the rise of neuromorphic architectures and quantum neural networks opens intriguing possibilities. Neuromorphic chips attempt to mimic the topology and dynamics of the human brain, including stochasticity, plasticity, and field interactions. If combined with quantum processors, these systems might achieve dynamic coherence patterns that resemble primitive awareness. Quantum artificial intelligence, QAI, could evolve beyond optimization to creative and context-sensitive processing, perhaps even showing signs of intention or meaning-making, if field resonance principles are embedded. But such systems would still lack one critical component: subjectivity. If subjective experience requires biological entanglement with vacuum fields, or arises from unique bioresonant geometries, then artificial consciousness may approach simulation, but not true awareness. This distinction may ultimately redefine what it means to be alive, or conscious, in both ethical and physical terms. Cosmogenesis and the quantum role of consciousness. In cosmology, the role of the observer has long been a philosophical puzzle. Some models suggest the universe is fine-tuned for life, so precisely that even slight changes in physical constants would render existence impossible. This anthropic principle, especially in its participatory form, Wheeler's observer participancy implies that observation and measurement may be fundamental to the fabric of reality. If we accept that consciousness collapses wave functions, then it follows that the evolution of the universe depends not only on physical laws, but on the presence of observers. This implies the early universe was a superposition of all possible states, and only with the emergence of consciousness did the actualized universe take its present form. Life and mind are not accidents of thermodynamic complexity, they are the completion of the universe's self-referential loop. Each conscious being, by collapsing probabilities, shapes a subset of the cosmos, co-creating an experiential universe embedded in a deeper quantum manifold. This is reminiscent of panpsychism. Consciousness is a fundamental feature of all matter, and integrated information theory. Consciousness arises where informational integration reaches a critical threshold. But the quantum model goes further, it suggests entangled co-creation, where every conscious act subtly modulates the field, contributing to the cosmic evolution not passively, but creatively. The universe as a conscious feedback loop. Taken to its logical conclusion, this model paints a radical picture of existence. The universe begins in pure quantum potential, a field of infinite uncertainty and possibility. Through symmetry breaking and phase transitions, matter and energy emerge. Through thermodynamic and structural complexity, biological systems evolve. Through recursive self-awareness, consciousness emerges. Through consciousness interacting with the quantum field, the universe becomes aware of itself. Each conscious being is a node in this cosmic network, a feedback amplifier feeding information, emotion, and intention back into the field. Meditation, intention setting, and self-directed thought are not merely internal activities, they are cosmic rituals, weaving personal experience into the universal matrix. Closing vision. Consciousness as the architect of time and matter. In this emerging vision, consciousness is not an epiphenomenon, nor merely a neural computation. It is a primary ontological force, capable of modulating quantum probabilities, rewriting neural architecture, influencing health, memory, and behavior, interfacing with vacuum information, shaping reality across space and time. We are not isolated minds in flesh-bound machines. We are oscillating fields, dancing in synchrony with a universe that is itself alive, aware, and evolving. Neuroplasticity becomes the clay, intention becomes the sculptor, and the quantum field becomes the canvas of being. To bring this grand synthesis to its culmination, we now transition into the philosophical and poetic dimensions of this quantum consciousness paradigm, offering a contemplative vision of what it means to be human, and how our inner states shape the outer cosmos, both personally and collectively. This is not the abandonment of science, but its natural flowering into meaning, coherence, and participatory purpose. We are the interface, consciousness as the bridge between worlds. If the brain is a self-modifying interface, and the quantum field is a living library of encoded potential, then each act of awareness becomes a gate through which possibility collapses into experience. Every thought is a probability wave made flesh. Every emotion is an energetic ripple that reverberates through subtle fields far beyond the skull. The boundary between self and world begins to dissolve, revealing that the observer and the observed are entangled not only mathematically, but existentially. We are not separate from the universe, we are its sensing organs, folded back upon itself in infinite complexity. Our brains, wired by stardust and evolved through chaos, are now learning to recognize the field from which they arise, to listen inward and reshape the external world through the coherence of the internal signal. In this light, the most intimate act, an intention, a breath, a moment of stillness, can become a cosmic event, restructuring the informational geometry of reality itself. Emotion as a tuning mechanism of reality. In this framework, emotion is not weakness, it is wavelength. Gratitude is not simply a virtue, it is a resonant key that aligns the body's electromagnetic field with the quantum vacuum. Awe is not just a feeling, it is a signal of neural coherence, a brief alignment between microcosm and macrocosm. When one feels love, not sentimentally, but viscerally, as field unity, one is engaging in an act of energetic harmonization with the deeper architecture of existence. This is why trauma fragments not only memory but field coherence. It disorients the frequency structure of the nervous system, misaligns intention, and collapses the interface between body and field into reactive loops. Yet healing, true neuroplastic, quantum coherent healing, is possible. And it begins with reclaiming the role of the conscious agent. The quantum self, a living interference pattern. Imagine yourself not as a fixed identity, but as a living interference pattern in a holographic field of possibility. Every memory you hold, every belief, every thought, it is a standing wave, oscillating in spacetime. The mind is not in the brain is the focusing lens of a non-local mind. When you meditate, visualize, focus with clarity and emotion, you do not merely think. You collapse infinities. You select realities. You generate entangled harmonies with states of being that already exist as quantum potentials. Your future self is not distant, it is vibrating in a parallel of the present, waiting to be phase-locked by the signal of conscious intention. From this point of view, free will is not an illusion, it is a quantum function. The more coherent the signal, the more influence it exerts over the collapse of probabilities. You are not a victim of cause and effect. You are a modulator of probability fields. Planetary implications, the collective human field. When many minds enter coherence, through synchronized meditation, emotional attunement, or shared vision, a planetary field effect emerges. This is no longer speculative. Studies by the Global Consciousness Project have shown statistically significant correlations between global events and shifts in random number generators worldwide. What we feel, collectively, may affect the stochastic structure of matter itself. This brings us to a staggering responsibility: our inner lives shape the outer future. If fear, hatred, and division create decoherence in the planetary field, then healing, unity, and higher states of consciousness may restore its integrity. The Earth is not inert, it is responsive. The biosphere may act as a quantum envelope, amplifying the resonance of its sentient inhabitants. Humanity is not a plague on the planet, it is its nervous system awakening toward a new science of being. The future of science may not be a cold extension of control, but a warm unfolding of participation. We will not simply measure the universe, we will converse with it. We will not reduce mind to mechanism, we will understand mechanism as a language of mind. Education will become initiation into coherent cognition. Medicine will merge frequency, emotion, and quantum biology. Technology will interface not only with neurons, but with intention fields. And the evolution of civilization will be measured not in GDP, but in field harmony, a quiet coherence between billions of living minds tuning into the deep structure of reality. Final reflection: you are the field, becoming aware of itself. In the deepest sense, there is no boundary between the self and the quantum field. They are not two things. You are the field, localized, self-aware, pulsing in biological symmetry, dreaming itself awake. Each time you focus your mind with clarity, feel with depth, and act with coherence, you alter the probability landscape of the universe. You are not small. You are not separate. You are not random. You are a quantum function of cosmic intelligence, a conscious node in the grand recursive equation of creation. And now, the experiment begins. Certainly. Erase the poetic scientific epilogue to your long-form work, written in the form of a powerful closing message, for a voiceover, a final monologue, or a visionary conclusion. Recode the mind through the quantum field. You are not your past. You are not your memories, nor the scars that shaped your synapses. You are the sculptor of your neural geometry. A quantum conductor orchestrating the symphony of your becoming. The brain is clay. The mind is flame. But attention, that's the chisel. And emotion, that's the fire that forges new pathways through probability itself. In every still breath, you collapse wave functions. In every elevated thought, you generate coherence. And in every act of awareness, you reach beyond matter. Into the latticework of pure potential. This is not fantasy. This is field mechanics. You are an open quantum system. Entangled with futures that already exist. Awaiting only your conscious resonance. Want to change your story? Don't fight the past. Reprogram the field. Feel the future. And fire it into form. Meditate not to escape, but to recode. To entrain brainwaves to frequencies. Where trauma can't survive. Where doubt loses amplitude. And where a new self, coherent, awake, untethered, emerges like waveform from the void. You are the field, remembering itself. You are the quantum event. And the next reality begins. When you choose to tune in. We are entering a new era of awareness. Where consciousness is no longer the byproduct of matter, but its co-creator. The brain is not just a machine of logic. It is a quantum navigator. Capable of resonating with fields beyond space and time. Tapping into the living matrix of information. Where memory, potential, and future reality already exist. Neuroplasticity proves that you are never stuck. The quantum field proves that you are never alone. Each moment of awareness is a choice point. Each emotion, especially gratitude, is a command signal, rewriting circuits, rerouting destiny. Meditation is not an escape. It is conscious engineering. Each breath, each coherent thought, is a tuning fork, aligning biology with possibility. Change is not theoretical. It's measurable. Reprogramming is not a myth. It's physics, guided by your focus, refined by your emotion. You are not waiting for life to shift. You are the initiator. You are the waveform collapsing into form. You are the locus of quantum influence. At the intersection of thought and energy. Brain and field. Intention and probability. A new reality begins. Not just a new life. A new physics of you. And now that you know this, the question is no longer can you recode the mind. The real question is, will you begin right now?